This is one of those photos that you see a lot if you're on Weekly 50 for any length of time. It's a pretty basic composition with one single clear subject and a blurry background. And in this case, it's slightly different maybe because there's nothing holding the subject. Usually the subject is like, let's say if it's a flower, you can see the main stem of the flower. Or there's something else besides the subject to put the subject in that front and center position. In this case, this leaf is just sort of floating on the water. And there's actually not that much distance between the subject and the background. There's only a couple inches. I think the leaf itself is maybe 1 inch from top to bottom, or from, what do you call it? Like from leaf stem to leaf tip. I don't know. Anyway, the reason that it looks like this, that it's so blurry in the background, despite just being a couple inches between what you're looking at and the background, is I shot this with my macro lens. And that's kind of the reason I took this shot in the first place. I saw this leaf at the edge of Theta Pond on the OSU campus, and I thought, you know what, this would be a cool picture if only I could take it. And I didn't know if I could take this because I had to put myself in kind of an awkward position. I had to find a way to look straight down on top of this leaf, but it's not always easy to do that when you're in a position like this and you have to put yourself over the subject. And in this case, the water, like how do I stand over this subject, look down through the viewfinder on my camera without getting my feet wet and disturbing the water, and these other logistical challenges? Thankfully, the leaf wasn't too far from shore. It was only maybe like a foot out from shore, and I was able to kind of put my feet out and stand, like almost straddle the shoreline a little bit. I used my D750 to take this shot, and the live view autofocus on that is not great at all. It's a contrast detect autofocus, and so it's constantly like hunting, like back and forth hunting until your subject is locked. But as soon as your subject moves, then it has to refocus. So I couldn't just flip the back screen out and hold my camera at a comfortable distance and point my camera down and autofocus on this leaf. That it doesn't work for something like this with a traditional DSLR. So I had to kind of angle my body at a weird position to look straight down with my camera in order to take this shot. As far as exposure settings, nothing super complicated here. f4.8, 105 millimeters on my macro lens. Used auto ISO, and it ended up with ISO 280, which gave me plenty of room to bring up the shadows and edit the color. And 180th of a second shutter speed. So nothing super fancy there. But if you look at this on a phone, you'll see a pretty clear picture. If you look at this on a computer screen, you'll see a picture that is full of dust and debris. And that's because the surface of the water was full of dust and debris. And I actually removed a ton of that in Lightroom with the I think it's called the Spot Heal tool, where you can just click on specks of dust or whatever, and it will basically erase them. But despite removing a ton of those in Lightroom, there's still like thousands of them left. At some point, you just have to call it a day and be happy with what you can get. So that's it is what it is. I would have liked to have like another hour to edit this, and I suppose I could have, but I just didn't really care that much. Like I at some point, you just have to stop and be happy with the photo. I did think it was cool that there was that little fly on the leaf, and that I didn't even notice when I took the photo. I didn't notice that at all until after I was already editing it. For some reason, it never caught my eye until I had long since taken the photo. And it's fun to have little instances like that where you get something surprising and unexpected that you don't even notice when you're taking the photo, but you find out about it later. That's happened to me a couple times over the years, and it's always kind of a fun little moment of serendipity when you can uncover those little nuggets about your photos that you didn't even know were there.